So we know that newspaper data and Caribbean studies in general, I would argue, is always already interdisciplinary. You're always going to be able to do if you're doing a concept map, you're going to be able to go in a range of different directions in terms of where to find. Just like I started looking for something in sort of book history and literary studies and literary history and ended up on gender and sexuality. And that was quite a jump, right, in terms of my exploration. Franco Moretti gives us this analogy in thinking about what he calls distant reading, a sort of global view of literature as an example, instead of nationalist view of literature, which is sort of smaller in scope. And what he says here is that we can interact with a body of work, not just a text, but a body of text, thinking about national literature versus global or world literature from two different points of view. Trees, which is starting from a unified center and moving out into branches, or waves, where we start seeing a unified, we decide that we want to make a unified thing out of diversity, right? So globalization is a way that waves work, right? The markets work to see diversity and try to make it a big thing, right? If you're thinking about the idea of trees branch off, so you can start with a big idea like Anglophone Caribbean. And from Anglophone Caribbean as a concept, what you will find coming out of it is OECS, CARICOM, Lesser Antilles, Windward Islands, dialects, languages, patois, Creole, all kinds of different branches can come from this idea of what we think we know about the Anglophone Caribbean. Whereas with waves, something like English is a broad concept to think about what happens in the Anglophone Caribbean with language, right? Because we have indigenous language, we have African languages, we have different Creoles, we have different patois, we have different accents for each island, different inflections, different ways of saying different words, different enunciation and pronunciation. And all of those things are encompassed under what? English as the first language or the primary language of the Anglophone Caribbean, right? So if you think about trees and waves, so I want us, when you're interacting with newspaper data, two things can happen. You can either see a unified whole, or you can look for the diversity. And both have their benefits, but there is a way in which waves are usually coming from a sort of imperial view of things in Moretti's estimation anyway. And trees allow us to think more about diversity in that way. I've put some broad themes here. I'm going to link the Caribbean studies content in the Keywords for Caribbean Studies is done by a group of digital Caribbean Digital Humanities group for the Caribbean Digital Conference this year, and they were looking at keywords and key themes. I have used some of those, but I'm also added a few for us to think about when we're interacting with looking for broad searches. In our thinking about looking at the data, we're going to search, you put your search terms, time, space, people, and objects. These are sort of the broad categories of terms that we can encounter. So think about the countries that you started with. What year are you looking at? What period of time are you looking at? Are you looking at pre-World War II, post-World War II, a specific year, like for Dominica, 1979 was a big year. Are you looking at geography? We talked about different countries already. Are you looking at people? Are you looking at a particular figure, or are you looking at objects? You can experiment with that. I just put this activity here for you. I hope they will share with participants this PowerPoint after, to include in your document search. This you can do on your time, and begin with search terms in each category so you can experiment with how it works. Do you have any questions? I'm going to just wrap up in a while and come to my favorite meme. So we're going to organize our thinking around the bulk data, and I'll do a tiny demo. I knew I had too much stuff for the time, but we're going to try of the bulk data. And think about what things are you not seeing when you search 1979. Or when you search for wife notice, or when you search for carnival, what things are you not finding? What are things are you seeing predominantly? Like I said, when I did a bulk data search, I saw Mr. come up as a point. We want to think about ownership. So you will some creator, the filter of creator on the page allows us to see who owns or originally published or originally created the resource that we're looking at. But it also tells us a little bit, as you will see in the newspaper image that I used for Dominica Herald, that the actual newspaper that was scanned was housed at the in New York at the Library for the Society of Man. I think the name of I can remember the exact name, because there was a little sticker in the top corner of a stamp on that newspaper image. And that is one of the concerns for someone like me who studies Caribbean literary history and cultural history, particularly about where does our history live, right? I'm really concerned or interested in what collections belong to US or UK or European bodies and archives that are not accessible to people in the Caribbean, because Dominica Herald is not in the archives, national archives in Dominica, because we don't have enough copies, or the copies there are quite limited compared to what is available on DLOC, which helps everyone who wants to access it. But also, I had questions about why is this newspaper in New York and not at home, right? So things like that we want to kind of think about as you are interacting with the collection. We want to think about the ethical turn. And the third of the workshops that I will be facilitating will really focus on this from a perspective of disaster and climate change. But we want to know what is not our business to tell. When we search for a silence, is this a silence that is deliberate? Is it something that has a silence that has come as a result of our histories of slavery and colonialism and imperial forces? And when is it appropriate for us to dig into those silences, or when is it just recording that there is a silence, the work that we need to do? These are some of the questions that you need to ask yourself when I will look at the bulk data, but when I put the bulk data into a text mining software, it showed me that Mr. came up a lot. In that case, I wanted to look at where women were in the text, because the word Mr. shouldn't be one of the most, or in my estimation, why is Mr. one of the most frequently used terms? Because women are not represented in the paper by themselves. It's always the wife of, right? So if we think about things like that, these are kind of silences worth engaging. But when is the silence an intrusion into a particular history? And is it our place to fill in every gap in the stories that we find? And then how then do we represent the silences and honor the stories? Because newspaper stories are going about lived realities in real time. And so we want to make sure, Dominica has an active population of Indigenous people, and Indigenous people have, for at least in my lifetime, been really invested in one, being seen and being visible and being recognized, but also in maintaining and preserving their autonomy and their right to say, this is not for you. And we want to honor that in the way that we interact with text. So how is my exploration of newspapers and documenting of stories about Indigenous people violating one of the premises of their own values, right? I want to think about those questions as I'm interacting. It's really great to have new finds or encounters as we're thinking about it, but not at the cost of doing more harm to our histories than we need to.